Lacson, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Karen, and thank you for inviting me again.
All right. The latest remarks, actually, that was his most extensive explanation yet. What do you make of it that the president said it was a joke? If you believed it, it was you're stupid. I ordered spare parts. I can't swim. I might drown. Let's start with that. That campaign promise of I'll jet ski to the Spratlys. And then finally today, it's a joke.
Karen, we may have a big problem here because we don't know at what point he was joking, at what point he was serious, and we don't know anymore when he's joking and when he's not. That's a problem because he said he was just joking during the campaign debate that he would ride a jet ski to the West Philippine Sea. And after that, he said that he actually ordered a second-hand jet ski. So at what point was he joking? And at what point was he serious? We don't know anymore. So we have a big problem in our hand, Karen.
Okay. The president describes it as bravado. Just to get into his argument, shouldn't we be able to tell when he is joking? And that's the line of Harry Roque. That's the line of Harry Roque usually.
Kaya nga, Karen, we have a problem because we cannot understand anymore. Hindi natin alam, even now as we speak, no? And when he addresses the nation, we don't know kung kailan siya nagbibiro at kailan siya seryoso. So is it up to us to discern or to understand kung ano yung portion ng salita niya yung joke and ano yung portion na serious? Mahirap yun, Karen. It's really hard for Filipinos, no?
You've had specific recommendations in the last few days on how the Philippines should approach the West Philippine Sea issue. And a strong one is a review of our diplomatic ties with China. Let's discuss that. What kind of review were you thinking of, Senator? In what manner?
We don't know yet, no, because I inserted that in as an amendment to the resolution filed by Senator Dillon and 10 other senators. Because when he invited me to co-author the resolution, I told him I would, but I would like to insert some amendments and replace or change the word condemning to simply strongly objecting, because I looked up the meaning of condemn, and it means it's a permanent divine punishment. If it's permanent or eternal divine punishment, you know? So even if in the unlikely scenario that China would ease up on the West Philippine Sea in their incursions, pag kinondemn natin, we cannot take it back anymore. So, and he agreed, no? Sabi niya lang, we don't have enough time anymore, we have to file it, but I'm open to your amendments. And last Monday, staff to staff, but of course, we were the ones directing, he agreed to insert or to replace the word condemning. And he agreed that it's too harsh, no, a word, considering that we still have a existing diplomatic relations with China. So yon. And when we go back on Monday, and that is tackled on the floor, I'm quite sure that he will accept those two amendments. Now, the point that I was trying to raise when I suggested a review of the existing diplomatic relations is this, you know, it's to send a strong message to China that we're not taking lightly the incursions, because there are several incursions already, Scarborough Shoal or Bajo de Masinloc or Panatag Shoal, ano? And then the Spratlys, the Calayan Islands, Mabini, Kagitingan, and so forth and so on. And then lately, yung Julian Felipe or the Whitson Reef, ano? And of course, lately again, ang ginigirian naman yung Sabina Shoal, no, of the coast of Puerto Princesa. Well, of course, they were driven away by the Philippine Coast Guard. But of course, we would expect that they would come back and with more force when they come back. Because when they're surveying already a shoal, particular shoal, before we know it, we will wake up one day and see some garrisons or some structures already existing on those reefs or shoals.
So in the review, you also mentioned that there are possibilities to explore in the China situation. Like what possibilities? Let's discuss some possibilities or avenues the Philippines can go to?
Well, the president is correct, because yung arbitral award, that's unimplementable because nobody will implement. But it stays permanent, Permanent din, nothing can change it anymore. But while it is unimplementable, we can pursue other options. Like, for example, we can build stronger alliances with natural allies like the United States, Australia, Japan, and even some European Union countries. In fact, the German government, Germany and even the British, they're willing to send their patrols in the West Philippine Sea. Why? Because it's not only to to pursue the national interests of the Philippines, but they also have their own national interests in that region. Because 1/3 of maritime trade diyan dumadaan eh. So pati sila apektado. And if they know that if China controls the whole sea lanes in the West Philippine Sea, sila rin medyo economically yung trade nila may tama din. So kasi each country works in the interest of their country. That's a given. And we should take advantage of that. We should grab the opportunity that they also have their own national interests to pursue in the West Philippine Sea.
Okay.
So one very potent weapon that we have left untapped in our arsenal is the Mutual Defense Treaty. But we're not using it. I have talked to the U.S. diplomats assigned here in the Philippines. In fact, they are calling on mostly senators and some congressmen. And in my capacity as chairman of the Committee on National Defense, naturally, isa ko sa pinupuntahan nila. And they said, Washington has been indicating to them na, maintain that close coordination with the Philippine authorities because they cannot just allow China to lord it over in the West Philippine Sea area because this is the Indo-Pacific region. And they also have their interests here.
All right. How can we take advantage of the Mutual Defense Treaty even without having to go to war? In other words, are there elements you just said we aren't using it to our advantage? Can you be more specific, Senator, when it comes to that? How could we use it today?
We are not encouraging war, Karen, but we should maintain that balance of power because nobody wants to go to war because when we engage in World War III, well, yung dire consequences of another World War will be very different from the First and the Second World Wars. So alam natin yon, alam ng China yan, alam ng US yan. So mas maganda na lang yung i-maintain na lang yung balance of power na tama na yung girian, but it should somehow preempt or prevent further incursions because China is embarking on, matagal na ito, yung cabbage strategy. You know the cabbage?
Yes.
Circle mo, irarap mo yung so nobody can enter. And that apparently that's what they're employing because that cabbage strategy came from a high-ranking PLA or military official of China, a certain major general in the PLA. This is way back, and I read about it, and that's what they're employing in the area.
Yeah. So, Senator, let's be specific. For example, in taking advantage of the Mutual Defense Treaty, would that mean, for example, we should have more Navy patrols with the United States? Should we already revive EDCA? Should we resume that? The Visiting Forces Agreement is, yes, it wasn't postponed, but every 6 months, it is technically at the hands of the president whether he wants to continue or suspend it.
That's another problem. The last time that I met with the Charge d'Affaires of the United States Embassy, ang sabi niya, they're in a bind somehow. They're in a bind in a fix because they wouldn't know when the president would announce to finally terminate. Ang biro niya nga sa akin, bigyan naman sana kami ng weekend to prepare because it will take 130 big, hindi ito yung C-130 mas malaki pa doon, I think 770 yata tawag nila dyan. Big aircrafts to, to haul off their equipment or their whatever they have here in the country. And it's no joke to move out of the country 130 large aircrafts. So sabi niya, sana man lang bigyan kami ng konting time to prepare to move out. But they're prepared and they're ready to move out, because if they feel unwanted here, they will not exist to be here. They'll insist to be here.
But then that's why this message that we're sending, or the lack of it, we always say clearly there's the Mutual Defense Treaty, but yet you have the EDCA, which would actually give teeth and power to the Mutual Defense Treaty prior to it being used, and the Visiting Forces Agreement. In other words, do you see a confusion in terms of policy when it comes to dealing with the West Philippine Sea and using our allies? Is the country moving enough in our national interest?
I was about to say that word, Karen, confusion, because even the armed forces of the Philippines are confused. We've talked to a lot of middle grade officers, even high-ranking officers. They're willing to patrol their specific assigned areas sa West Philippine Sea. The problem is they're getting mixed signals. While the Secretary of National Defense and even the Secretary of Foreign Affairs, Teddy Boy Lacson, have expressed strongly against the incursions. Pero pag nagsalita yung Commander-in-Chief, iba naman yung message. So, and then they're getting so many justifications or so many reasons not to conduct their usual patrols. Yeah. And even the United States, they have very limited resources. They're thinly spread. Remember, meron pa silang NATO. Meron pa silang, ang dami nilang ina-attendan because of their geopolitics. Let's face it, the Philippines is just one, or the West Philippine Sea is just one of their interests. So hindi naman pwedeng dito lagi sila magpapatrol. So sabi nila, limited as they are, yung resources namin, we can only schedule yung patrol nila with the Philippine Navy or the Philippine Coast Guard.
Okay, do you see this as the president's strategy? Him saying one thing today, for example, fearing China at one moment and then being strong like last night, I will not give up our rights in the West Philippine Sea. And then you have Lorenzana, Lacson giving such hardline statements and actions against China, and yet the president issuing another statement. Do you see this as a strategy of some sort?
Well, we don't know anymore, because as I said earlier, it's really very hard to read the mind of even his speeches. Mahirap i-interpret what he really means in a lot of ways, because talagang mixed signals. We don't know if he's serious, hindi rin natin alam if he's joking. So many times his spokespersons would say, no, that's just a hyperbole. Nagbibiro lang ang presidente, hindi siya seryoso. But there are times he seemed serious in his statements. So we don't know anymore. So we have that very big problem in our hand.
Okay. Retired Senior Associate Justice Antonio Carpio said yesterday on Head Start, he believes the reason why Duterte, the president, is protecting China in this way is because he needs China for protection in case the military plots a coup against him, or China promised to protect him, or some analysts say even after his term, in case the International Criminal Court goes after him. Because do you understand why the president is protecting China in this manner?
I don't. And that's the opinion of former Supreme Court Justice Carpio. And I have no reason not to believe or to believe his opinion, because he may have a basis, he may not have a basis. But tayong dalawa, would you understand if that's a strategy really deliberately being applied by the president or not? No, we don't know that, because we don't know when he is really, or he really means what he says. Yun ang problema. And I think I share the sentiment of so many Filipinos.
Do you believe President Duterte, frankly, is still fit to run the country after hearing what you've heard? What many people have heard him flip-flop on several issues and give different statements with the West Philippine Sea?
Karen, let's put it this way. He was elected by 16 million Filipinos. Ang laki yung margin niya doon sa runner-up kay Senator Marojas. So let's just leave it at that. He was entrusted the office of the presidency. meron tayong, because of his statements last night, if I were a political science professor, magandang subject ito ng discussion sa Politics 101. Title, write an essay based on the title, Stupid Voters Elect the Leaders They Don't Deserve. So I want a 2,000-word essay on that. I'd like to give that test to the students and find out, pick their brains, kung ano yung ibig sabihin nung, how would they expound on that statement. Because it's been, yun ang problema natin, no? Yung voters natin, after a while, after electing their leaders, doon na lumalabas yung regret, yung pagsisisi, but it's too late. And the next time around, when the next election comes, gano'n na naman, it has become a vicious cycle na after 2-3 years, but this president seems to be a Teflon president because he still enjoys a vast majority of support from the Filipino people. No? Believe the surveys or not, but that's what the surveys say.
Was it fair for him to call the Filipino people stupid if they believed that jet ski statement? I would assume for a voter, maybe Filipinos weren't taking it literally, but it would seem to give the impression of I will fight for the Spratlys, right? That would be like that is
the subliminal message, Karen.
Exactly. It may not be.
I'm willing to die for my country.
Yeah. So calling the Filipino people stupid if they believed it, what do you make of that statement?
That's it. That's what I'm saying. Stupid voters elect the leaders they deserve, or they don't deserve, or we don't deserve. I'm not saying that we don't deserve President Duterte, but that's a general statement that I made. Okay. And we should learn, as an electorate, the Filipino people should learn how to, not only the president, but other leaders, congressmen, mayors, governors, senators, lahat ng elected officials, dapat medyo magsimula na maging discerning yung ating electorate because ang nakataya talaga rito, tayong lahat, di ba Karen?
Now, Carpio yesterday and also Vice President Leni Robredo at one point said there were two statements that were worrisome. One, that the victory in the arbitral tribunal is just a mere scrap of paper. And number two, China is in possession of the West Philippine Sea. And they find it troublesome because they say it in effect is agreeing with China's arguments. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I can follow, Karen, because it becomes a foreign policy statement, an official foreign policy statement coming from the president himself, who is the chief architect of our foreign policy. So coming from him, that somehow he agrees with China, that and he won't enforce the arbitral award, may risk involved. But then, again, we should know better.
Okay. Would you consider this already? I asked if this was already a betrayal of public trust, a betrayal of national interest. In another universe, it could be considered an impeachable offense.
I wouldn't comment on that, Karen, for a simple reason that in all probability, if somebody files an impeachment complaint and the House transmits to the Senate the articles of impeachment, I would be automatically a trial judge in an impeachment court. So I'd rather not comment on issues like this because it would compromise my position if it comes to that.
Okay, all right. Now, at least also the statement of, I'll add one more, is they can fish all they want, just not touch our mineral resources.
Well, that's an EEC, di ba? Sovereign rights tayo meron dyan, no? Dahil that's beyond the 12 nautical mile limit and within the 200 nautical mile boundaries, ano? So talaga naman lahat inaalaw mag-fish. Ang problema, yung fishermen natin ang natataboy. We cannot fish anymore and we're losing billions of pesos and that affects our economy. So pwede namang modus vivendi na anybody, that used to be the case, di ba? But then China has become of late very aggressive.
Oo.
to a point that they even rammed commercial fishing vessels that owned by Filipinos, di ba?
Oo.
But they, of course, they compensated, no?
What are the implications? As we speak right now, the Armed Forces of the Philippines confirms that there are still Chinese vessels in the West Philippine Sea at this point. Not all have left. But what are the implications of the president's statements, the country's foreign policy at this point, in the generations to come, or even in the next 6 years after Filipinos vote for another president? The implications of where we stand at the West Philippine Sea today?
Well, at the most, we are losing ground.
Yes.
And we have lost so much momentum kasi napabayaan na. Yeah, di ba kanina pag-usapan natin, the biggest aircraft of China had already landed. I think this was in 2012, 2013, di ba? Doon sa Kagitingan Island. Nagland yung nagdadala na ng mga nagre-resupply na eh. So ang laki na ng headway ng China rito. And I don't know how future generations can undo what damage has been done, quote unquote, under this administration in relation to the West Philippine Sea issue.
Okay. And you believe also, Senator Lacson, it's not discussed as much, but it's really an issue of food security as well.
Yes, that is correct. Because alam mo yung galunggong, binibili natin ang lalaki, nanggagaling sa China, pero galing din sa waters natin eh. Isn't it an irony that we own the fish that we are buying?
All right. Well, we're going to go into a quick break. Before we go and move to another subject, how should Filipinos let their sentiments be known that this is not how they want the government to handle the West Philippine Sea issue? I mean, clearly you have netizens right now voicing their opposition or disgust on Twitter and Facebook. There are more. But then Justice Carpio wanted schools, he wanted industries, he wanted the business sector. He wanted people to come out and really make it known. What would you suggest? The Senate already issued a resolution, so that's one. But how will the president hear exactly what the Filipino people feel about it?
Well, you and I know, Karen, na pag may mga issues na raised against the administration, naging active yung troll farms. And they keep intimidating people. You have been a victim, I have been a victim, and anybody else na minsan nag-raise ng issue against some policies of the administration, nasa receiving end ng mga troll messages, hindi ba? And yan ang problema natin. We should learn some more, and we should be more discerning than what we are right now. No? Kasi pagka ganyan ang labanan, talagang there's a lot of disinformation, fake news going around, and some gullible people tend to believe even the most unbelievable fake news. Yan ang problema.
So there's kumbaga these troll farms have sown fear and discouraged people to really speak up. That's what you're saying. That's one hindrance. It's a barrier.
Yeah. And well, some are suggesting that the best antidote to a troll farm is put up your own troll farm. But not everybody has the wherewithal to put up troll farms. And where is the morality in all this troll against troll media war?
Very good point. For 2022, do you believe that there still should be, Comelec has said there will be a presidential debate, but it may not be mandatory for some candidates to attend it? I'm curious.
Well, you cannot force a candidate to engage or participate in a debate. If he doesn't want to participate, that's his loss. No, we cannot really force them to participate in a presidential debate or a senatorial debate.
Really? Okay. Hindi yung presidentials, hindi pwede, Senator?
We cannot force them.
Mandate yun.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Because if somebody doesn't want to participate, how can you force him? You will physically bring him there and participate in a debate. If he doesn't want to participate, that's his own lookout, di ba? Because his programs of government cannot be heard or cannot be articulated in a discussion or a debate. So lookout niya yon. But that's a problem with the electorate. No? Madaling masway do sa mga jokes, no? Yung mga budot, yung TikTok, medyo shallow. So there should be really a massive information campaign sa electorate natin. But it will take generations before we achieve that. Unlike in the United States, di ba? Yung presidential debate will suddenly change or shift support to from one candidate to another. Dito hindi eh. Ang nagmamatter dito yung political advertisements and then yung stage, kumakanta, sumasayaw. So it's really, I would say it's pathetic, na ganun yung situation.
All right. Senator Lacson, we're going to go into a quick break. When we return, we'll discuss the national budget and also the NTF-LCAC. Stay with us. Of a looser quarantine level for the Greater Manila area by the middle of this month. Health Secretary Francisco